I have so many women who go to their doctor, they have these symptoms, they would be great candidates for HRT, and their doctor goes, you're too young to benefit, here is some birth control instead, which for me and us, it's just like, red flag, red flag.
You're so okay with leaving women on hormonal birth control at higher dosage orally, but we are not okay with bringing in HRT at lower doses that is actually real bioidentical hormones. We're not okay with that. So it's so backwards and it's so ridiculous.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host. And today I have a wonderful guest, Dr. Mariza, on the podcast. Today we covered so much stuff. We talked about HRT. We talked about synthetic HRT. We talked about birth control. We talked about testing. We talked about empowerment and all the things that happen in perimenopause and menopause and what you really need to know to really move into this season of life in your best health and how to make the last half of your life the best half of your life. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed recording it. Okay, so I am so very excited to have Dr. Mariza here with us today. She is all things perimenopause. We met at an event in Dallas. I've been following her for a long time. She's fantastic. So I know a lot about you. Our listeners may not know a lot about you. So why don't you do a little intro about yourself and perimenopause, how you got to where you are, and then we'll dive into some of the things about HRT and birth control and symptoms and all the things, how early it can happen, because there's so much that we can cover today.
Oh my goodness, so much that we can cover. I mean, I remember seeing a meme a couple weeks ago where someone was like, perimenopause is a 10-year transition. And it was like, that's not a transition, that is a career. It is such not only a defining moment in our lives, but it is a chunk of time. Like who you are going into perimenopause, starting midlife, is not who you're going to be on the other side. And so I think it's important for us to have such a beautiful mindset. You asked how I got into perimenopause. I had a front row seat to my mom's perimenopause journey. My mom, where it really flagged for her was about 48 years old. And my mom had me at 19 years old. So I was, so maybe she was 48, 49. I was 30. I had been in practice for 2 years, and 95% of my practice was women in midlife. Women who were in perimenopause or in menopause, but that were being siloed in every different direction around their symptoms. So many of them on hormonal birth control. This was back in 2010. That's how far we're going back. We're going back 2010, 2011. No one was talking about perimenopause then. And I remember, in the years, my mom was already in late perimenopause before I really understood what was going on. Because initially, the low energy, the burnout, the lack of stress tolerance, the rage, the mood swings, the weird sleep, the just not feeling like herself anymore, kind of looked like the narrative of every midlife mom. Every midlife woman in their 40s who was normally aging and just going through the gauntlet, right? It was just, but that was I remember just like women suffer. That was always the narrative that I heard growing up. Like I remember when I got my period at 11 years old, my mom's like, so listen, you're going to suffer for about 4 to 5 days out of the month forever, and I was like, oh, okay. And it's like, it's so interesting how these things are passed down. And so there was just this narrative of midlife women who just suffered, struggled, and this was normal aging. It is not normal aging. It is profound, declining, erratic hormones. We're talking about a massive hormone shift. So at 49 years old, she had been dealing with these quote unquote normal aging symptoms for a minute. And again, she didn't think anything of it. I didn't really think anything of it. My whole patient practice was filled with women just like this. But then things got worse. As she entered into late peri, she was flooding. She was going through multiple tampons in a day. She was dealing with really severe depression and anxiety. Like all of a sudden things got really real. It got way too disruptive. And unfortunately, she kept going to her doctors and it was the same things. It was synthetic hormones. And, it made it worse. And I'll never forget, I got a call at 11 p.m. and my mother is a beast. The kind of woman who powers through everything. Nothing takes them down. She is just solid. She is just consistent. And she just plows through life, no matter what's happening. And so to get this call at 11, I remember I ignored the first one, but then she called me again and I was like, oh, something's wrong. Like initially I thought it was my sister. And I could hear when I got on the phone with her how scared she was about how depressed she was, about how she didn't recognize herself anymore. And she was like, I need help. I don't know what to do. And this is a woman who never asks for help, never doesn't know what to do. And I was like, okay. So I ended up taking over her care, and man, what an incredible transformation. One, I sat down and I listened, and we got clear on her vision. And then we started implementing lifestyle strategies. And at this time, again, 2010, the Women's Health Initiative was still just strong and going. So nobody was on hormones except for synthetics. So she was like, I don't want to be on them. So we actually managed this without hormones. If I could go back to 2011, I would have done it differently. But I just didn't know what I didn't know. Yeah. But it was amazing to me how far we got with lifestyle medicine. Within the first 65 days, she'd lost 25 pounds. She was sleeping. Her mood was stable. She was feeling happy. I remember her calling me, again, not at 11 o'clock, but at like in the afternoon one day. And she's like, Mariza, I honestly didn't think I'd ever feel like this again. I never thought I would like have this energy or just feel like myself again. And I just was like, oh my God, that's my mom. Like Jesus know, like she had this beautiful turning point. Yes, the weight loss was a super amazing side benefit, but it was the energy, it was the mood, emotional well-being. It was all those pieces. And then she grabbed the bull by the horns and was like, I'm going to redefine menopause. And she started playing tennis competitively, and she started running. She signed up for a marathon. She's 64 today. I was literally just on the phone with her because she's going to be in the OR with us tomorrow for my son's surgery. And that woman ran a half marathon last week like nothing. She has ran over 70 half marathons.
Good
and she has
her.
ran, I don't even know how many marathons at this point. I don't know the number. I just know that there's medals all over her wall at her house. She gets up at 4 a.m. and runs with her girls almost every day. She goes to work. She plays tennis at night. This woman is a beast. Like her metabolic labs, chef's kiss at 64 years old. And so I just wanted to share like what is possible. Not only does she have this, and what we'll be talking about today is the things that my mom did, the things that I'm doing right now at 45 years old. And for her, more importantly, is that she knew who she wanted to become.
That's huge.
And that was huge. And it changed everything. She's like, this is not my mama's menopause. I remember when my book in 2021 came out on menopause, my mom had just gone to a concert, and she was in like short Daisy Duke cut off short. And I get, like, we're talking about deep in her 50s at this point. Like, I mean, she may have been 59. And I was like, and she had her long hair and her makeup. I was like, that woman, I don't even know. That woman looks like she's like 45. And so, I mean, she's just been living, define it however you want to define it. But I just want you to know that this transition, as profound as it is, doesn't have to define you. It gets to recalibrate you. You get to be so discerning about who you want to be. Yes. There's so much that we can do to take control of it and to really set us up to future-proof our health for decades to come.
And I think that's huge. There's a lot of people just, I don't want to say give up, but they kind of think like this is how it is, or, they just accept it. They don't even know what they want to pursue anymore, what they enjoy, what they want that life to look like. Because a lot of people, they'll come in and work with us and they're like, oh yeah, I just want to lose weight. And it's like, no, but who do you want to be? What do you want life to look like in 10 years, 20 years? Like for me, I went hiking. I must have been like early 20s. And I went hiking. There was a woman with her grandkids on this like big hike, and she was wearing a sash that said 80th birthday. And I'm like, that is what I want. And so it's like, yes, we want to lose weight and all the things, but are you living a lifestyle that's going to allow you to do those things? Like, I need to make sure that I am strong, that I am healthy, that I have actual like muscles on my body to do those things, right? And so what do you want to be doing in your spare time? And I think women literally never take the time to actually sit down and ask themselves that, because they're so just focused on getting through it or what's next or taking care of everyone else. And like, yes, we're all nurturers, but what do we want? And you said something at the event in Dallas that you said, in perimenopause, everything is up for review. And that is something that has just stuck with me. I'm like, I Love that so much. So can you share a little bit about like kind of where that came from for you, what you're seeing women kind of, what does everything up for review mean? Because I think that's a very empowering, like, oh, heck yeah, this is up for review and I have the control and it's great.
I think you spoke a lot into so many of the narratives that we were brought up with, right? One, that we put people first. And I think it's inherent in our genetics and in our biology that that's what we do, that we nurture. And it's so easy to put other people in front of ourselves. I always say, perimenopause is the time to prioritize you when the world and society has taught you to prioritize everything and everyone else. And so that's really what it is. It's a time of reckoning and discernment, because I have a good feeling that a lot of women head into midlife still prioritizing other people's needs, still following a path that was set by somebody else.
People pleasing.
People pleasing, perfectionism, still kind of driving based on beliefs that aren't serving us anymore. And when your hormones begin to shift and your health begins to shift and everything begins to the floor begins to wobble underneath you, and you're realizing, like, I'm at a crossroads. I can completely continue to do what I've been doing. I can go the default route. And I will tell you that if we don't prioritize ourselves and we keep going that default path, it is very clear. The research is clear that although we live on average, so the average lifespan for women in this country is 81 years old. The average lifespan for men in this country is 76. So we know we live longer than men, about 4 to 6 years. But we also know that 20 to 20% of that life, and that's in menopause, after menopause, that we are spent with chronic conditions, that our quality of life isn't that of men in those final decades, that last third part of our lives. And it doesn't have to be that way. So we get to decide. We get to go the default route. We keep doing the thing that we're doing. We keep doing the thing that our mama did. We keep just saying, oh yeah, like I throw up my hand. This is just how it is. It's just what everyone's told me. Or we pivot. We get super clear, not only about how we prioritize ourselves and our health, because, oh my gosh, there are so many democratic things that we can do that are free that move us in the right direction to feeling more alive. And I always think, when I think about my future self, about what I would love for it to look like, one, I want to stay on purpose. I want to stay on mission. I live to be my mission, but also I want autonomy. I want freedom. I don't want to negotiate with myself in my 70s about what I can and can't do. I want to be able to put my luggage in the overhead compartment. I'm 5'2". I already have to do a little reach and a shot put to get it up there. People are always trying to help me. And I'm like, I got this. I trained for this. Yes. Every day I am training for this. Like, let me have my moment, and, or when if I have a grandchild that I'm picking them off the floor when they're sick with a fever, and I can do that. I can deadlift that kid off the floor onto the couch or onto a bed. So I'm super clear about what I want. I'm training for my grandma self. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's what I'm training for. I'm training for the travel that I'm going to experience, and the 15th book I'm going to be writing. I'm training for a brain that is sharp and clear. And so I think when you get so crystal clear about where you're going, that you get to be discerning. You get to set the boundaries. You get to decide what your time is worth. You get to decide what you're going to prioritize. You get to decide if you don't care anymore.
Yes.
What if there's things that you're doing, obligations that you are handling right now that you don't even love, that you don't want to do, but you're just doing because you said yes out of obligation? And so in this time in my life, in this transition for me at 45 years old, I am so discerning about what is a full body yes and what is a full body no. And so if it's a yes, or if I don't know, it's most likely a no. Like if I'm wobbling on it, I'm like, you know what? I obviously don't want this. It's not a full body yes. If I'm having to sit with this, then it is a no. Because our time is just too precious. You think about, I know we always think of 50 years old being that turning point for us. That's the start of midlife. That is not the start of midlife. If 81 is the average age, right?
Exactly.
We're talking about, okay, I'll say 40, but technically it's 38.
Yeah.
And so, but let's just say 40. 40 is your halfway point. right? Give or take. And so let's get clear at 40 years old. Let's decide at 40 how we want the second half of our life to look and how we want it to feel. A question, I even think it's a very, I call it a brave question, or more like a very bold question, at least for women. And the question is what would you love? What would you love heading into this next season? What would you love today? What would you love this weekend? Are you sprinkling things in that you love? What brings you joy? Because when I check in about what matters the most to me, it is doing the things that I love with the people that I love. That's what it is. And so how do I integrate more of that into my life and less of what I don't love only because I am under obligation?
Yeah, and like not waiting for it. Like I had a woman that we were working with, and we asked her, like, because we ask these questions with clients all the time, right? It's like, what do you love to do? What have you not done in forever? If you could spend your ideal day, your work day, and like a non-work day, what do you like? Ideally, what would that look like? She's like, oh, I'd love to wake up and read. I'm like, we can do that today.
Amen, girl. Amen.
Yeah, I'm like, can you do that tomorrow? And she's like, well, I guess. And I'm like, you say you love, like, that is a very simple thing. Can we start with like a couple days a week? You wake up and you read your book for like 10 to 15 minutes. And it's like,
or 5 minutes, just 5 minutes.
It's amazing.
Or while you drink your coffee. And I mean, and especially when we talk about the benefits of reading, the eye movement across the page, kind of similar. I mean, it's not EMDR by any means, but it helps to regulate our stress response system. It is calming. It is it's not your phone, because gosh knows once you get to your phone, everybody's got demands. Everyone's got, got things that they want. Yeah, it's pinging. And even if you're on TikTok or Instagram, there's still CTAs. Calls to action, right? That you're feeling called to do. You are now in on mode. But if you're sitting with that book, alone time with you, I am such a big reader. I gobble books. And I do it to regulate my nervous system. I do it for self-care. I do it to actually calm my brain down. And every one of us deserves that level of rest. And it may not be reading a book for you. Maybe it's walking outside in nature. Maybe it's sitting and breathing. Maybe it's a couple yoga poses. Whatever it is, like that needs to be built into our daily because our nervous systems are on overdrive all the time.
Oh yeah. I tell women all the time, like, do you like crocheting? Is it knitting? Is it a crossword puzzle? Like, what is it that, like, if you were bored, that you would do that is not scrolling on your phone? And they're like, oh gosh. And I'm like, this is a problem that we're like, so that's just the automatic thing, right? It's so wild.
It's so wild. It's so wild. Yeah. I was going to say, I go and grab coffee at my favorite little coffee shop, or I'll go and get a matcha. And I always say, women, we have one of two choices. You can either get on your phone while you're waiting for that coffee, or you can walk the block. I always walk the block, or do some squats. Like do something that's going to move. My little coffee shop is right next to the ocean. So when I do that little block, it takes about 3 minutes to get around. I can see the ocean on the block, and then I go back up the hill. And then when I get back, guess what? My coffee is there. My super sexy organic almond milk cappuccino is ready, waiting for me. And I will tell you that it is, one, I clocked 1,500 steps. So I'm heading towards my step count, right? I know because I've tracked this enough. 2, my brain, I feel more at ease. I've been out in nature. I'm about to get my coffee, but my brain doesn't feel frazzled from being in the phone for that 3 minutes while I'm waiting. And so it's these micro shifts. Like I remember when I used to wait back in the day when I carried books with me everywhere. When I was waiting in line for the grocery store, like the grocer, I would just pull up, I had this big bag, right? All of our, especially your mom bag. And I would just pull out my book and read for 3 minutes, and then until I was ready. And so it's these micro moments that I think we don't think we can afford, but I promise you can. And they add up to something very profound.
Big time. And I always like challenge people too. I'm like, when's the last time that you went for a walk and like didn't have your earbuds in? When was the last time you drove and like didn't have something on? And people are just like, it's so uncomfortable. And I'm like breathe, see things, like just allow your brain to like wander. Like we're so used to just having to be plugged in all the time or having to be quote unquote productive. I'm like, no, like just be. Your nervous system will love it. And people are like, I cannot remember the last time I drove in silence. I'm like, you should maybe try that.
Maybe
see what that feels like.
Happens, see what comes up.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I will say I'm also guilty of listening to something. Usually it's a book, like a fiction book when I'm walking, or I want to be productive. I want to listen to a new podcast episode from a friend, and so I totally get that. But I do, I mean, having those rules of like, for instance, I never go into my sauna with my phone. It's a no,
Good.
or I don't have my phone with me the last hour of the night.
Yeah.
So like I have these rules in place walking without a phone, even to listen to music, that is something that I need to stretch into even more.
Yeah. And even if it's just like, 15 minutes, like a couple times a week or something, just because you'll be surprised at the things that like come up. And then that also helps you with the whole everything is up for review situation. Because like if you never allow yourself to think, how are you supposed to know? And we always say, like, you're supposed to let your kids get bored. Like, that's how they are more creative. That's how they learn. Like, that's a good thing. And it's like, but then for us, it's like, oh no, we must be like stimulated at all times, consuming something, right? And so I always think it's funny how like we have different rules for kids sometimes than we do ourselves. When I'm like, if they can benefit from it, we could probably benefit from it too.
Bedtime routine,
Yeah.
I'm like, how did we give that up? My son, I have a 4-year-old, so he has a bed routine, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's consistent every single night, including reading. And pajama time, bath time, brush teeth time, and lights are super dim, so we have blackout curtains in the room. And so all these things that we do for our son and then like adults don't do this. I'm like, there's a reason why we had this when we were kids.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about HRT because like I was mentioning before we started recording, I have so many women who go to their doctor. They have these symptoms. They would be great candidates for HRT. And they're, 43, 44, 45. And their doctor goes, you're too young to benefit. Here is some birth control instead, which for me and us, it's just like, red flag, red flag.
Such a red flag.
So how, like, why don't you dive into a little bit about like the differences and that kind of stuff, the symptoms and, the pros and cons of HRT, because there is so much misinformation still out there that we're still trying to combat, right? And what kind of HRT we should be looking for. So lots of stuff, all things HRT.
Oh my goodness. Yes. All things HRT. Well, let's get some numbers on, let's just define a couple of things really quickly. Natural menopause is anywhere between the ages of 45 and 55. Now, the average age that most women will go through it is around 51 years old, 51, 51.5. But anywhere within that range, that's a 10-year range, ladies. You know what I'm saying? So the best way to know, because how do you know? Like, is ideally, hopefully, your mama didn't have a complete or partial hysterectomy, which unfortunately, hysterectomies are the second most common surgery performed on women. Number one being pregnancy. Let's be honest, that is a big event. Yep. And so a lot of women will ask their moms, and their mom was on birth control when they went through, and so, and they won't know. So, but that is a good indicator of like when you may be going through, but probably early 50s is what you can probably guarantee. So if that's true, we know that perimenopause, that transition leading to menopause, is anywhere between 4 and 10 plus years. For certain ethnic groups, particularly women of Latin descent and who are Black, are going to be, they're even longer. So up to maybe 12 plus years, the transition can be. Which is
wild.
It's wild. It is a second puberty. So if you remember your first one and what a wonky, crazy, wild ride that was, and that was probably 6 to 8 years coming online to rhythmic hormones that were cycling every single month. This is going offline. So we're not coming online anymore. We're going offline. And so hormones are going to start to erratically decline. And due to that, we're going to see low-grade inflammation in the body. Due to that, we're going to see some really profound changes. And that's why during perimenopause, not menopause, but during perimenopause, you can have up to 100 different symptoms, particularly brain-related symptoms, hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, brain fog, lack of word recall, mood swings, rage, anxiety, depression. These are all brain-related symptoms, okay? I know you're thinking, well, hot flashes happen, no, it's a brain related occurrence.
Everything,
vasomotor symptoms. Yeah. And so symptoms can begin. So let's say natural menopause for you is 48. I mean, I don't know. Then we're talking about late 30s. And the first hormone that's going to start to shift and decline is going to be progesterone, the progestation hormone. The reason for that is we're going to start having an ovulatory cycle. So cycles where we don't ovulate. And in order for us to make progesterone, we got to ovulate. It is mission critical. I know we talk about their menstrual cycles, but it always should have been an ovulatory cycle because ovulation is the main event. Not your period. Your period is not the main event. It's ovulation. That's what makes it all work. And it is a very metabolically active process for our bodies to prepare for pregnancy every single month, whether we get pregnant or not. So on the back end of ovulation, there's a corpus luteum. It's a temporary endocrine structure that releases progesterone into the luteal phase of your cycle. And it peaks around day 21 in a 28-day cycle. And at day 21, your body's like, oh, you ain't pregnant? So then it starts to decline. And that's when we start to go into that lower hormone state of both estrogen and progesterone. And that's why PMS symptoms begin to occur. When we are in a low hormone state, whether it's the end of your cycle, day 25, 6, 7, 8, or you're in perimenopause and it is just a wonky situation of some days you're in a low hormone state, some days that you're not, it can be, you're driving these symptoms. And so with progesterone dropping, we know that it's a big brain related hormone. And so that's usually when women start to go to their doctors, is probably late 30s, early 40s. They're noticing the classic symptom of a perimenopausal woman is a woman who says, I don't feel like myself anymore. I don't feel like myself anymore. Something isn't right. I was steady. I was strong. I was consistent. I was on it. I was productive. And all of a sudden, it feels like the rug is coming up under me. And that's when doctors are going to say, okay, well, initially, it feels like a little bit of a exacerbation of the daily pain points of being a woman, right? Little more irritated, a little less, having a little less stress tolerance, so more stressed, more burned out. Sleep is off a little bit. You're more achy. Your workout recovery isn't the same. You're putting on a little bit of weight, not a lot, but a little bit, and you're not loving it, right? Especially in the belly area, things are shifting. So you go to your doctor and you're like, I just don't feel right. Like something isn't right. And usually they're like, it's stress. It's stress. You got kids. This is normal. And they don't even recommend hormonal birth control at this time. So I just want you to know that this is early perimenopause. And because they're going to say, oh, your cycle, is it the same? Is your cycle consistent? Is it still 28 days or 26 days or 27 days? And you're like, yeah, I mean, it's like clockwork. It's consistent. My PMS symptoms are a little bit worse, but it's still running. Like I'm 45. I have a 28-day cycle. I'm very much in perimenopause. I'm on the hormones and I have a consistent cycle. And so they're going to be like, well, you're too young and send you home. Okay. This is when you start asking the questions or start asking for your labs. Also, this is when you start tracking your cycle and tracking your symptoms along with your cycle because you're looking for the nuance. That's the thing about peri. For some of us, it can be like a Mack truck moment. For others, I mean, I've never met a woman who knew they were in peri at the very, very beginning.
No.
Because it is so subtle initially. And then it feels like it kind of hits you in the face.
Yeah, it just feels like life.
It feels like
a tiny bit harder. That's like what it feels like.
Or it feels like maybe it's some of the other symptoms you've had before. Or it feels like maybe your low thyroid function that you've been controlling now seems like it's a little bit wonky. I mean, for me, I thought it was my Hashimoto's flaring. For me, I thought it was still postpartum. I had my son at 41 years old. Like for me, it looked like a lot of other things that I was chasing. And so that's why I say track the cycle, track the symptoms so that you have data on yourself and then asking for the labs, looking for the labs. Now, hormone labs may not be very clear. They may still look really great. Mine still look pretty darn good on paper. I just I test them at the right time on the right day.
Literally.
And it looks good. But it's the symptoms that are really driving this. And I will tell you that labs won't typically show me a full picture. It's going to be your symptoms. It's going to be your symptoms that are going to share with me. But at this point, most likely you would greatly benefit from a little bit of oral micronized progesterone in the luteal phase of your cycle. I see women even, I'm recommending that even women in their 30s, in their mid 30s, where they're not yet fully in, like even showing signs of perimenopause, but it's very obvious that they're needing some progesterone support. And so what I would say, I would first ask your doctor, like, hey, things are shifting. I'm not crazy. I know things are shifting. I don't know what's going on. I'm pretty sure it's my hormones. And I need to know how often are you prescribing hormone therapy? Are you even open to having the conversation?
Yes.
Because I need to know. And if you're not willing to have the conversation, or you don't feel comfortable, or all you're going to offer me is hormonal birth control, then I think I'm going to need to find a second opinion.
And then what about like understanding synthetic versus bioidentical? Because a lot of women get put on progestins, which makes you like, I've been there. And oh man, if I would have known back then what I know now, because that stuff messed me up big time.
Progestins can't cross the blood-brain barrier. They do not turn into allopregnanolone. So I want to give an example of what that's like. So I was just interviewing Dr. Louise Newsome, who is like one of the revolutionary hormone doctors out of the UK. And I don't know if you know, but the UK is kicking our butt when it comes to...
we're so behind all the time.
She's been leading the charge. So we were having this conversation, and she was like, what I want to talk about today, I literally had this conversation with her 2 days ago, is the risks and the dangers of women not being on HRT. I'm so tired of talking about the potential risks or side effects of HRT. The benefits far outweigh the risks. And she's like, that's the conversation I want to have. And I was like, let's have it. And she's like, this is how I liken it, because here we are in a situation with women in perimenopause where we're still thinking about bikini medicine, that women are only different from men in their breast and in their ovaries and their uterus. Right? And what do we do if a woman comes to us and she's got bikini medicine type symptoms? We're going to offer a solution. Well, the only solution that we've got is going to be hormonal birth control, whether that is a progestin mini pill, whether that is a combination pill, or whether that is a progestin IUD. And when she was describing it, and I just love this, she's like, I want you to think about the difference between, so oral micronized bioidentical hormones, that would be real strawberries with the polyphenols and the antioxidants and the fiber. And let's be honest, strawberries are a superfood and they are delicious and they are in season, right? And then let's take a progestin, a synthetic progestin, right? That is like strawberry candy with high fructose corn syrup in it. There is no nutritional value from that. And that is how the body takes it on and interprets it. So whereas we're filling in the receptor sites with real progesterone, with a bioidentical hormone, and it is actually crossing the blood-brain barrier and addressing the brain-related symptoms, the sleep issues, the anxiety, the depression, the mood swings, the rage, the low stress tolerance, the irritability from your partner chewing and breathing around you, right?
Literally.
That's addressing it. Put them on a progestin, it doesn't touch any of that. So yes, it may feel like it's regulating your cycle. It's not. It's just turning the whole thing off. It's just shutting it down. And at a time where these hormones are mission critical, I always say ride your hormones until the wheels fall off. Yes, supplement with HRT, bioidentical HRT, but don't take away your whole body hormones with hormonal birth control. And yes, I get that I'm such a big proponent of women having reproductive freedom. Totally. And I'm a big proponent of women having viable solutions for contraception, because yes, the possibility of getting pregnant in your 40s is very, very real. Gosh knows I had a baby in my 40s. Women are having babies in their 40s, and so I want that freedom for you. But there's options that we can explore that are not wrecking, but particularly if hormonal birth control is being recommended to regulate your symptoms and your cycle, we can do so much better than that.
So much better. No, it's crazy. I remember when I was on, because I didn't know. I was younger when I went on it, and I was
no
on
informed consent.
Yeah, so I was on the depot, which is
it was awful.
Super not great. And then I did an IUD for 10 years, 15 years, and just coming off of that, first of all, was like brutal because my body's like, progesterone, how do we even make that? Because we've never had to do that. Like it was so bad, like so bad. I remember sitting in my bed crying. And my partner was like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, why are you crying? I'm like, I don't know. It's just happening. And I like can't control it. And I feel like I'm a person who's like typically in control. And I was like, and that's like triggering more anxiety because you don't feel in control of your emotions. And then you feel crazy and then you are more stressed out, which like is worse for your hormones. And it's so brutal. And so when we're talking about HRT, let's talk about some of those benefits. Like why women should like highly consider this.
Well, let's talk about the evidence-based benefits, because unfortunately with the Women's Health Initiative, a lot of the research halted. Yeah. And so just a little bit of a background, doctors were prescribing HRT. It's synthetic, by the way. There was compounded going on in the 90s, but mostly it was synthetic. It was Premarin and Prempro. And Premarin is basically, it's an equine estrogen, conjugated equine estrogen. So made out of horse urine. So it's many estrogens. Yeah. And then Prempro was using a progestin or progestogen, whatever you want to call it, but a fake progesterone called MPA. And so these were being recommended orally to much older women who had, in some instances, comorbidities. They already had cardiovascular disease. They already had prediabetes. They had been smokers. They had been, many, many years. The average age was 64 years old, and they were being given oral synthetic hormones, HRT. Sorry, kind of similar to hormonal birth control, yeah. but HRT. And so the trials start to run. We have a couple different arms. We have an estrogen arm, and then we have an estrogen and progestin arm, because again, bikini medicine. And what we know is that if estrogen is taken unopposed, so HRT, estradiol, or this wasn't even estradiol, this was a combination of estrogens. When it's taken on by itself without progesterone, it can drive potential endometrial cancer. And so now if you've got a uterus, they will always put you on a progesterone. But what's crazy is if you don't have a uterus, supposedly progesterone isn't necessary, which I think is absolutely crazy. Wild to me. Like progesterone only affects the uterus. That is like mind blowing. Anyway, so it breaks my heart when women have a hysterectomy and doctors are like, yeah, so we're not going to give you progesterone. And you're like, what? But like, I have all these brain related symptoms. Like, why can't I have that? So anyway, neither here nor there. There's just something to think about. And 4 years into that, the estrogen and progestin, the synthetic hormones, that arm stopped because we saw basically a relative risk of breast cancer. Instead of 4 women out of 1,000 women in the placebo group, it was 5 women out of 1,000 women in that group. But what it looked like when you looked at absolute risk, like 25%, and it wasn't. It was one extra case. And so they stopped that arm. And then we saw some cardiovascular things going on in the estrogen arm, and that arm got stopped 4 years later. But the headlines and the news and the media blew it all up that estrogen caused cancer, which actually it wasn't even that arm. So it was just such a hot mess. And so now here we are 20 something years later, finally debunking all of that and realizing that there was several things we got wrong about, and we learned in that study. But also, we also realized, in this last 20 years that all the women that haven't had the opportunity to be on HRT ever since have really suffered some major consequences. So evidence-based, what we know, the evidence-based benefits of being on HRT. And again, we're still looking at the cardiovascular benefits. We're still looking at the neurological benefits. We're still looking at the overall mortality benefits of being on HRT. But what we know for sure and what we can absolutely claim is genital urinary symptoms, which again will happen in about 100% of women: UTI, incontinence, vaginal dryness, vaginal atrophy, inability to have sex, low libido. That's all GSM. We know that being on HRT, systemic HRT, and I'm talking about bioidentical HRT, it will significantly reduce any of those potential issues that come up in the genital urinary system. Number 2, vasomotor symptoms, hot flashes and night sweats, right? That's what we recommend HRT for. suppose that's it. And then osteoporosis. But here's the thing about osteoporosis that I just want to highlight, that a lot more of us have it earlier than we think.
Oh, yeah.
And that 50% of us will have an osteoporotic fracture in menopause in our lifetime. And that 1 in 5 women from that hip fracture or whatever that fracture is will die a year later after that. And so the disease of frailty is very real for us. 100%. And so if HRT, at the end of the day, if we can only prove that HRT reduces hot flashes and night sweats, which I believe is a metabolic issue, reduces osteoporosis, and reduces GSM symptoms, to me, that is enough of a reason for women to be on it. But we know in practice, and research is coming out, that when we get on HRT sooner with at the onset of symptoms, so I'm talking before menopause, which is such a patriarchal defining moment, right? You're telling me that I can't be on hormonal HRT, like hormonal medication, to support my body until I am officially 1 year out of not having a period. Do you know how long before that my estrogen levels have been almost at ground zero, and the implications in the body due to that low hormone state? And the symptoms that women are dealing with in late perimenopause, leading to the defining one day in time where you haven't had a period for 12 days, is just insane to me. That we would wait that long. Like I take care of women with thyroid issues and Hashimoto's, and I have Hashimoto's and low thyroid function. And I cannot imagine that a doctor would tell me, well, we need to wait until your TSH is a 6. And we need to wait until your T3 is suboptimal and your T4 is suboptimal before we even consider giving you thyroid medication. And yet that is exactly what we are doing with women. And what's even more complicated is we will not give hormonal replacement therapy to women until, again, menopause or really, really late peri. But we have no problem putting them on synthetic oral hormones, again, birth control pills, at a higher dosage, and ride it all the way until they're 53 or 55 years old so that they are clear of perimenopause. So we're okay with oral. Did we learn nothing from the Women's Health Initiative? That having women on this oral medication at higher doses could cause clotting and cardiovascular issues and inflammation and gut changes and nutrient deficiencies? Like, obviously we learned nothing. So we are so okay with leaving women on hormonal birth control at higher dosage orally, but we are not okay with bringing in HRT at lower doses that is actually real bioidentical hormones that are given, with estradiol, we give it transdermally. We're talking about all of those risks. We're mitigating those risks by doing it transdermally. We're not okay with that. So it's so backwards, and it's so ridiculous, and it's so lazy. And I get that doctors have spent the last 20 years not prescribing HRT. And so there's just such a massive knowledge gap on top of the knowledge gap that already existed already.
And if they're not super interested in it, they're not going to research it, right? Yeah. They're not going to dive into it.
Or
like most general
they feel like they have a
don't.
solution.
Yeah. And they're like, this works, so I don't have to.
Control.
Yeah.
So they're like, that's fine. That's good enough. And it's not good enough.
No, and it's crazy that they're like, oh no, you won't benefit. Oh, today is the day that now I can give this to you because it's day 365, which is crazy. That's also like being like, stage 1 cancer, not bad. We're going to wait until it gets really bad. And then we're going to start treating your issues. Like, no, it's like when you put it into perspective and comparison in those kinds of ways, I think people are like, oh yeah, that does sound so outlandish, but that's literally what we're doing because we know how much hormones and everything is going to affect your ability to put on muscle mass, blood sugar, inflammation, like all the things that are required for you to be healthy, to be fit, to be here long term. Like it's crazy to think that it's not going to support those systems when we know the loss of those results in all these issues. And it's a lot of people are going into the state of losing their hormones when they're already not in a super great state of health to begin with that they aren't even aware of until estrogen and progesterone start to decline. And now they're having all these really wild symptoms. And it's like just exposing what was already kind of happening under the surface and just really amplifying it. So it's like, if you were kind of getting by before, the loss of estrogen is really not going to let you get through that afterwards, right? So I always say that that's like, it's really telling of what was going on in your body beforehand, because it does just amplify those things. And that's why I think women 20s, 30s really have to focus on improving and understanding this stuff, so that when you start experiencing these changes, that it's not like that Mack truck moment where it's like, I feel like I got hit by a bus, the bus backed it up, ran me over again, and then hit me one more time on the way out, because that's what we're seeing time and time again. And everyone also thinks that HRT is magically going to help them lose weight. And it's like, can help with your symptoms so you can sleep better, which will then lower your stress and improve blood sugars. Yes. But also you still have to work out to put on muscle mass. You still have to go for a walk. You still have to eat your fiber. And I think a lot of women, I get this all the time. They're like, I took HRT, but I'm not losing weight. I'm like, because that's not how this works. So do you want to dive a little bit into that aspect of things? I think it's good to have people say it in different words, because I feel like I'm, beating a dead horse when I'm saying this stuff sometimes.
Absolutely. I love, and I wanted to highlight, because you did ask, like, what is bringing these hormones back on, or supplementing these hormones in, doing for us, right? We know that estradiol plays critical roles in bone health, memory, cognition, cardiovascular health, but we're talking temperature regulation, maintaining healthy and strong muscles and joints and bone, helping bone remodeling, helping the nerves work correctly. I mean, estradiol is literally the master hormone of your brain. It's the master regulator. It is driving energy metabolism in the brain. We so desperately need to maintain that. Maintains healthy metabolism, improves our immune system, keeps our gut health, our gut microbiome healthy, reduces inflammation, improves the way neurotransmitters are working in the brain. And again, it keeps the lining of your vagina and your vulva tissues healthy and lubricated. So, if you're talking about what are the side benefits of HRT, it's numerous. It's there's almost, you can't really put, a number on all the things that estrogen and progesterone are doing in our body. And so it is very much a yes and. I believe that every woman who's a candidate for it, which the majority of us are, deserve to have the conversation, to find a tailored approach, because it's not a one size fits all, especially in perimenopause. You are going to change in perimenopause. Guess what? Your dosage, the type of things, the type of hormones you're going to be using, all of that's going to shift. Like, it's not going to stay static. I think that's another thing, is that so many women are on HRT on this static dosing or a very low dose, and it's just not touching a lot of those symptoms. But also, yes, it's not going to help you lose weight. Not in the sense, it's not a GLP-1 agonist, It is, again, it's going to help you get deeper restful sleep. It's going to give you that motivation back. It's going to get you out the door. And I think those are so invaluable. 100%. But I'm not going to lie, HRT did not lift my weights for me today. Okay.
It's so true. You still have to do all the things.
HRT did not make my fiber and protein rich breakfast this morning. HRT didn't take my supplements, and so HRT didn't ensure that I had my evening and morning routine down solid. And so it is really important. I think that both need to exist for us. 100%. That we need HRT and we need lifestyle medicine. That, again, I talked about this in the beginning, the fork in the road of default mode versus empowered choices of prioritizing ourselves. And that means lifting weights. That means walking. That means eating metabolically healthy foods. That means, again, taking yourself for a walk just for stress regulation, right? Mm-hmm. That means going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time, having good circadian rhythm optimization. All of these, spending time with your friends and community, and getting that oxytocin boost. Like, all of those pillars are going to be so critical. Like, if they weren't, I know we got by when we were in our 20s, maybe even in our 30s, but that's what there's no getting by anymore.
No.
Like, we get to be intentional about how we tend to our bodies in this phase. And if we don't, we're gonna get a lot of what society told us about aging, right? We're going to get a lot of maybe what our mama's menopause was. And again, we have the capability of pulling the right levers, but we have to be willing to do so.
Exactly. You have to be willing to do so. So Dr. Mariza, is there anything else that you want to wrap up with here, share where we can find you, all the things, because you're just a wealth of knowledge and everyone's going to benefit from following you?
Yeah, I would say, I think I want to just go back really quickly to what you deserve. Mm-hmm. I believe that you deserve to feel amazing in your body. You deserve to feel alive. I think I always kind of think about my litmus test is aliveness. How alive do I feel today? You also deserve a team to support you and to advocate for you. And I know that there's a lot of doctors out there and practitioners out there online that are doing just that. And if you don't love what you're hearing from your doctor, if it's very clear that they don't know what they're doing, and it's okay if they don't know what they're doing. A lot of them don't. They just don't. No one's getting menopause education and perimenopause education. They're just not. And that is, it's the more that we understand that and that's clear, then we can go and get what we want. And the last thing I want to say is that you never deserve to suffer needlessly. And so if you are finding yourself suffering right now or struggling right now and you're getting the runaround, I know it's not fair. I get that it's not fair that you go to your doctor and you're expecting this, you pay the insurance, you're paying the co-pays, and you walk out the door with nothing to show for it, right? Maybe a prescription that you never wanted to fill, but that you deserve better. And the beautiful thing is that there are doctors like myself out there that are educating, that are writing books, that are really leading the charge on giving you the tools, not only to take it into your own hands, because I always say no one's coming to save us. No one's coming to save me. Like I get all the doctor questions. I'm the one taking care of everybody else, and so I just know that that's the profession that I chose. It was the role that I play, and so I've got to have my own back. And I will tell you that what moves the needle more for me than anything, and I love my hormone replacement therapy regimen, but it is the lifestyle choices that I make. It's the alone time that I carve out for myself. It's getting to the gym early in the morning. It's eating, an anti-inflammatory diet. Those are the things that move the needle. It's protecting my sleep like it's $1 million meeting. Those are the things that move the needle for me. And so I say, get clear on your non-negotiables. What are the 3 non-negotiables that you need for you to feel more alive tomorrow? And just begin to prioritize those. And then you can go from there.
I love that. I love that so much. And it is just a time of empowerment and deciding what are you going to do? Like, who do you want to be? What actions are you going to take? And just starting, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay. So where can we find you?
Yeah. So I have an amazing podcast called Energized with Dr. Mariza. And this is what I talk about all day, every day. I just had a solo episode, which will be a while after this, that was literally on exercise snacks. Because I do believe that we should build life around movement. Yes. Like movement is my everything. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need, a sexy water bottle or workout gear or anything to get your exercise snacks in. And so I want the wins. I want the wins for you. And then if you're open to it, I have a Thriving in Perimenopause Survival Guide that all the things that I mentioned right there, I go into not excruciating detail. I make it super simple. But if you're like, I just need to know where to start. I just need a first step. Like, how do I even get started, Dr. Mariza? That is a beautiful guide that'll step you right into it. Lab ranges, what to ask for from your doctor, how to advocate for yourself. I mean, everything is built into this so that you know what that first step for you is so that you can begin to implement, because results is what you deserve.
Absolutely. And we'll have all that in the show notes. So you guys can find her. Go give her a follow. She's a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for spending your morning here with me. And I'm just so grateful for our time together.
Yeah, thank you for having me.